Good afternoon. I think we're starting our series of bunch of budget workshops.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, so Kathy, I'll just turn it over and let you go. Yeah.
Today's the first of many. Kathy Funk Baxter, Finance Director. So today's first item is we're just discussing the mental behavioral health tax. Oh, Dan, go down. Yeah. Well, wants to hang on to part of the page before. So just at a glance, we've projected, this is the tax that has been sunset. And so we have some remaining residual funds from that tax that had been collected for several years. And so we're projecting that at the end of 2025, we will have about $2.7 million left residual from that tax. And so that 2.7 is not sufficient to continue a full year of funding for all of the previous departments that have been funded from this tax. And we had preliminarily talked with the board about establishing how to use these funds for the next 2 years to fully expend them. And so the one area where we have a commitment or an obligation to perform the services for the jail, particularly for their medical contract. Most of this is their medical contract. It also is for 2 positions, 2 correctional officers, mental health solutions, MAT expansion, and MAT medication. It doesn't cover the full extent of those contracts. This is just covering a portion of those contracts because that medical contract is well over $2 million. So, so if we were to expend the funds on the jail for those purposes, we will completely exhaust these funds at the end of 2027. So.
And also, if that contract's over 2 million, these funds will be exhausted halfway through 2027.
Yeah, they in their general fund budget, they're covering the full contract, and then these funds are transferred in to their departmental budget to help supplement that particular cost.
And this is what you're suggesting you give them each year.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and to fully utilize the behavioral mental health tax funds. After that, it'll be another new biennium, and so these funds will be gone, diminished, and so a whole new. So this will end up being an obligation of the general fund fully after that period.
So what, or if any of this is all mandated that we continue to support?
The only thing that I could determine was that we have an obligation to provide the medical services for the jail, and as we have in the past. And this, I wanted to make sure you saw all the departments that were informed that these funds would no longer be available. So the clerk's office had 1 position that's fully loaded, the position benefits and other ancillary expenses. The drug court had several positions, that was $470,000. Mental health court, $164,000. Juvenile, $148,000. Public defender, this was interesting because it was pieces of about 3 or 4 positions. The prosecuting attorney, the same thing. It was pieces of several positions in their office. And then in the sheriff's office, it was 2 positions that were behavioral health related.
Are you looking to be more granular, Commissioner?
Pardon me?
Are you looking a little more granular? I think the mandated are probably 2, 3, and 4 on the right. They probably don't tell you have to have 2 officers to administer it.
Right. I was trying to decide how granular I want to get into this.
Yeah,
And I guess right at the minute we can come back to it. I don't know. I guess, can we break it down any further than this? As to where those costs are?
The 1.3 million is going.
No, for each one of those,
The departments
Category.
previously,
yes.
I have all that detail. Yes, I can. But like I said, the clerk's office, do you remember, Susie, how many positions? I think it was just just one position.
Do these positions, like the clerk, juvenile, public defender, what programs are they supporting within this year?
So I believe at one time when they started this tax, they looked at the positions and determined that those positions supported the purposes and the mission of the behavioral mental health tax.
So drug court as a category for $470,000, obviously doesn't include the clerks and the cost of all these other, the public defender, prosecuting attorney, sheriff, et cetera, et cetera. So what all makes up drug court costs?
It's several positions.
That's
It's
purely employees?
it's almost purely employees. I think there is a little bit of M&O in this one, maybe about $40,000 support for other materials and things, but it's predominantly positions and benefits. Almost all of these are.
Okay.
So is the drug court cost, is drug court reliant on any of those other positions? So in other words, can drug court exist without the clerks? I'm just throwing something out there.
Yes.
I think I would like to see what each one, like, for example, what is juvenile? What do we?
Juvenile's one,
50,000?
juvenile's one position, and it's a case. What was it, a case position? Do you want to go get the individual, that spreadsheet that has all the positions? Yeah, we have the detail for that. It is a case management position. And on the public defender, it's attorneys. And the same thing for prosecuting attorney office, it's pieces of several different positions. So at one time, I think they did a study and said, okay, who do you have that's supporting anything supporting mental health, behavioral health related in your offices for cases and things like that?
So sheriff's office expense for $274,000. How does the sheriff get involved to that extent?
2 people.
It's 2 people, it's 2 positions, and all the benefits associated with those 2 positions.
And those are the behavioral health unit officers, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what? Okay.
And just so you know, the clerks, some of these departments, the clerk's office, for example, when we go over personnel, they made the decision because we said, this fund's no longer available. You know, here's some alternatives, here's some things to think about. If you want to keep that particular position or need to keep that particular position or person, if you have another vacancy that you're willing to give up so that it can be fully funded by general fund, they did so. So the clerk's office gave up a vacant position in order to keep the person that had been paid off of behavioral health tax. So did juvenile. They gave up a position. I think it may have been in the probation area, but they gave up a position in order to keep the case manager.
Are you talking about empty, open positions?
Empty open positions. So we asked them to first look at open positions, and if they had any open, could they collapse those positions so that they could keep this particular position or person?
I appreciate that, but I don't look at that as much of a sacrifice of giving up a position when you're
Yeah.
filling an open position.
Right. Well, they had the ability to do it, and so that's how they resolved their need for this fund. I agree, not everybody had that ability. And so they will also have an opportunity, all of these departments will have an opportunity to come forward when we talk about personnel. Because like I said, these are personnel positions predominantly. And so they have the opportunity for requesting personnel, putting them back in the budget through other sources or through general fund. And so that happens on October 7th, when we will come back and they can speak more to what the person's duties are performing and contributions to the county.
I would like to see that. Primarily because I think, I look at this and I think that there are programs that I see that have value that I want to continue to find a way to fund. But I don't know, like, for example, the public defender, do we already have some of that covered on indigent defense? Is that covered under here? And is that budgeted? Is there any crossover? You know what I mean? I'd like to see each one of those.
Yeah.
So that money's being spent.
So what we're proposing is for today to earmark the remaining funds for the jail. And then each of these departments would come forth either, but probably both chances. They would come forward in the personnel request and talk about their request to keep those positions and why. And they also have another opportunity when they present their budget to also provide justification and to talk about what the positions do for the county and how they're needed. So they have at least two opportunities to also present their case for continuing the funding if they would like to do so.
Okay.
Yeah, so just in big picture, we're talking about two departments, like I said, were able to collapse open positions. So before that, it was $1.6 million bottom line hit to the general fund to move these over to general fund. Clerk's office and juvenile resolved theirs. So that's about it's a little over 2.5 million, 250,000, sorry. So we're still talking about $1.4 million if all these departments submit their request to fund off of the general fund. So it's a big ask.
Right.
Before we move on, I know you don't have to come up, but I didn't want to, if you came over and you wanted to speak, you're certainly welcome to. I mean, I don't expect you to just be visitors. If you don't want to contribute, that's fine.
Sheriff Brad Thurman. Yeah, I did want to come over and hear the conversation and just speak on behalf of our behavioral health unit. We have two workers. Originally, when we started this up back in 2023, we actually funded 4 people out of the program. But due to attrition and evaluating the program, we dropped it down to 2 folks, which we currently have. And the cost for going forward is about $254,000 a year for the 2. So we're going to be making that request, and I want to be here at this discussion too, just to hear the discussion and see if there's some alternative forms of financing to keep the program going. We think it's successful and a good resource, and it's kind of a big push across the country to have an alternative to a jail and taking people to the hospital, intervene, and hopefully keep them out of the system if we can. So that would be the, I guess, the ask, and we'll be back on the 30th with our general budget to discuss that. But if there's any options out there for funding for them, we'd appreciate it.
I appreciate that, Brad. Because like I said, there's programs on here that I am interested in looking for and finding alternative sources of funding for. I'm not aware of what some of these other ones are, and I'm anticipating hearing from those departments with regards to their ask for this stuff. But I think that there's some of these programs bring value to our community, and I want to make sure that we do what we can to ensure that they continue. But some of them I don't know. I'm not aware of what some of these other ones provide, what they do.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Nothing else? Move to the next.
The next topic?
Yeah.
Okay, and so you have the details that you can see, the actual positions in that handout we just gave, that tie back to these numbers for each of the various departments.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And if they're filled or vacant, I think we've also got
Dallas, since you're here, can you
I think they're all,
explain and help me understand? I know what drug court is, but what's the difference between drug court and mental health court, and how do those operate with each other?
Program intern for therapy courts, South County.
So,
Oops. Dallas LaGrange, program manager for therapeutic courts. So what the difference between drug court and mental health court? Drug court is focused on anybody that gets arrested that has drug charges. Mental health court, same deal. So if somebody gets arrested for a criminal charge that has a mental health disorder, they get assessed and sent through the mental health court track.
and Sheriff, do you work with both of those people, the mental health court and the drug court, through your behavioral health unit? Do you work, does your behavioral health unit work with both drug court and mental health court participants?
You know, I can't speak to that. I think what's their, in the system, they deal with staff respect.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it all starts with the arrest. And then from there, they get processed through the prosecutors, defense attorneys. They come in, and if they meet all the eligibility criteria to get into the program, then they're allowed in by the prosecutor.
So you would know the answer to this. Are all of these line items particular and necessary for drug court?
Well, we work with Office of Public Defense, prosecutors, the clerks, and I know that there's, and I can't speak to each program, but I know that there's, I think some of that money from the mental health sales tax goes into wages for the different people that work with our team. But I'm not for sure.
yeah, I can't speak to who made the determination, but it was made many years ago, and They've just been carried through the budget, piece of this person, a piece of that person. As you can see, we tried to put down how much, what percentage of the FTE is paid off of the tax. In the OPD, for example, it's 0.48 of a clerk, court attorney. I don't know if that one's always the same one that works with those particular cases. So I don't know.
So it is. It's usually we have one defense attorney and one prosecutor that is on our team. It is a state requirement that we have attorneys, judges, and everybody on the team available for when we go into open court, they got to be represented.
Is the court commissioner, is that just a judge? What's it
Well,
referring to?
we have a drug court judge, we have a mental health court judge, and then we also have safe court, which is a youth drug court, and then we have Hope Court, which is a family dependency. So if their children get taken from CPS and then they have a substance use disorder, we get them into the family dependency, and a lot of times the commissioners will kind of handle the, they'll jump in and out from the different courts if the judges are busy.
What role do the behavioral health units have in this?
In drug court?
In this whole, the picture as a whole?
Well, the best way to look at it is all of this is like a legal intervention. So it's probably one of the best outcomes you can get with treatment and when there's legal intervention. So it starts with the arrest, the behavioral health unit, there's a lot of times there's so much mental health and so much addiction in this county that, they can send out their behavioral health unit to work with people rather than send out law enforcement. So it starts with the officers or the behavioral health unit, which then referrals come in from there because they either go into custody or they get into treatment services elsewhere outside of drug court.
Sheriff, as a behavioral health unit officer, are they a deputy? Can they make arrests? No?
Ross Mason Behavioral Health is, I guess, pre-arrest, that's legal, they're trying to keep people out of the system. Once, they're actually charged, deputies involved in criminal charges, it takes a separate track through, they qualify for drug court mental health.
Okay.
How do you quantify, you said it's one of the best. Where do you have data for that? Because I've asked for data on that for a couple of years and haven't seen any. Do you guys track data? How do we
There has
tell?
been data collected for the drug court from the previous
How it
manager.
compares to other counties that don't have them?
What's that?
How it compares to other counties that don't have a drug court?
How it compares to other counties that don't have drug court?
Right?
I don't have anything with me right now. I can give you,
I mean, I've asked for that for 2 years now and never seen it, so I've done it myself, just plugging some numbers, and I don't really see any difference, but I'm just rough numbers. I'd be interested in data if you have that, how you compare to, I think at the time when I looked at it, Chelan didn't have a, drug court and they were similar sized and started to look at their costs and their issues. And I couldn't determine much different, but if you have data, I'd like to see it. I'm just trying to, you called it the best, so I want to know how you determine it's the best.
well, our drug court program is looked at from many other counties in the state of Washington, and has been observed, and they take what we do here and have implemented it in different counties in Washington.
So then our county must have some numbers that are much better than some other counties.
So I can get you the information. I started here in this position 4 months ago. I can get you all the information that I possibly can from the last manager.
Wow. Yeah, he didn't have much, but that's good. I just, when you throw out terms like that, I just want to know how you get to them, and because I've been having trouble getting to them. So if I'm having trouble getting to them, maybe you have a better
If we're a
avenue
model,
for it.
if we're a model county, I mean, other counties must be looking at something that convinces them of that. We'd like to see it.
Okay. I can reach out to AOC and get that information for you.
Okay.
How many agencies in town deal with drug problems?
Well, there's a lot of behavioral health centers,
Yeah,
but what I can say with my history, so I'm also a licensed SUD clinician, so I've worked with drug addicts for the last 12 years. I'm also a licensed independent clinical social worker, so I've worked in mental health for the last 4. What I know on this topic is when there's court intervention, you have much better outcomes. When there's the risk of going to prison, losing your family, losing your kids, there is a much better outcome with treatment, with following through with services.
Okay, again, I guess I come down to, there's got to be some type of a foundation that you can base that statement on.
Okay.
I want to see the foundation.
I can
plus,
get you,
do they not have drug intervention in the jails too, right?
what's that?
The jails have programs, the prisons have programs for drug intervention.
So this is pre-prison.
Yeah,
So I mean, I don't know much about the prison system in Washington other than, they might get services there.
okay. Well, if you have data, that's great. When you start quantifying, then I'm interested in how we quantify it, so.
I think what I'm hearing on, for everything on this page is the drug court system would fail if you removed any one of those positions off of that page. It would be incomplete, not functionable. Is that a fair statement?
I cannot answer to the attorney's offices if they have the staff to still see and make it to the court systems. What I know from the drug court and mental health court and the juvenile, without the funding, we wouldn't have a program.
That's interesting, because counties that don't have a drug court still have these other items.
Obviously doing other things, right?
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for me? This is presenting where this revenue source is going to be dedicated for 26 and 27. And then, like I said, these departments all have an opportunity to come forward. Most of them twice because of the fact that these are tied to personnel positions. And then they also have their departmental budget that they'll speak to the needs for the positions as well. And I know for the public defender's office, they don't have any other source that they can go to. And like I said, it's pieces of people and they can't get rid of pieces of people. So they have their own, justification for that coming forward. So as well as the prosecuting attorney's office, for example, 4% of Ryan, our PA, our prosecuting attorney, is paid off of this, has been in the past paid off of this source.
So are you saying that, let's take Ryan, for example, to make him whole when this goes away, that funding is gonna have to come from somewhere regardless?
Right, right. And that's what I'm seeing, particularly in the public defenders and the prosecuting attorney's office, because those are pieces of people.
But they won't be doing those duties anymore. I mean, I'm looking at OPD, drug court attorney, 0.48, mental health court attorney, 0.25, juvenile safe court, 0.20, therapeutic court, 1.0 on a paralegal. If those courts aren't there, it's not a function they have to do. Am I seeing that wrong? I mean, you probably still want them and you probably still want them to do other things.
Yeah, I don't know if that, I don't know if the
So I guess what I'm
FTE is
saying,
correct
yeah,
either.
if the one is gone, then is there any even legitimacy of being able to put those funds there? Because they're not doing the services to it.
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
don't
saying I
know.
have the answer, I'm just bringing up a question.
Yeah.
Do we have some sort of, history or experience with how this has been handled in the past with these percentages of services offered by these different people and funding is no longer allocated for that?
Yeah, each year they would revisit the budget for the positions and the departments could submit updates saying, okay, this position is actually been performing and related to mental health and behavioral health. So every year they could submit, but for the most part, there hasn't been a lot of change. Like, for example, I think historically, on the prosecuting attorney's office, it's pretty much been pieces of people. It's not been any particular position. It hasn't changed really as far as the allocation.
So the costs year over year have been pretty stable.
Right, other than, of course, positions have received COLA increases, things like that.
Okay.
So the amounts change because of that, but the percentages hasn't changed as far as the allocation of this particular person, that particular person.
Okay, as far as
To the tax.
time allocation and stuff is pretty stable.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And I think that's a good question. You don't know if they did it a couple years and it kind of came with this and they stayed there or they look at it each year. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had in the past, when the tax was still being collected and everything, they had the opportunity to look at who was performing and who should be allocated to this and make changes at that time. But they pretty much have all stayed within the same type of
Pretty close.
dollar amount of allocation.
And is it fair to say that most of these employees that we're talking about, maybe with the exception of Ryan, are they union employees in these positions? No?
No, probably.
Yeah, no, most of your attorneys are exempt positions.
Well, I'm just wondering about the sheriff, juvenile.
Yeah,
Jail.
I'm almost positive that those are exempt positions. Yeah, I can look at that for you. The correctional officers are union employees. Okay, so hearing, not asking me to change anything, and that's why I'm presenting, making sure that this is what the direction we want to go on the budget. You still have other opportunities to tell me, no, change this, change that, based upon your decisions on the budget. But for now, I'm leaving the the jail,
Because that
to-
one's mandated.
right? It's mandated for those services to be provided. Okay, I think this is the next one we have in our agenda to talk about is our cost allocation for information technology. And Travis is here with me. That's kind of weird. It shows a big blank page. But mine has information on it. Y'all's blank too, right?
Well, there's numbers at the very bottom.
Yeah, but it's, okay, I don't know why it's not showing.
We can see those numbers that are not showing up there at the bottom, but
Yeah,
that's it.
I think what they're missing is
Oh, yeah,
how
Oh,
they
you-
do the allocation.
yeah.
Is this, allocation process, did we adjust that? We tweaked that a little bit, didn't you, over the last couple
This-
years or not?
This one, there hasn't been any major tweaks. There's been a couple other ones that we did some
Okay.
tweaks based upon comments that y'all made last year.
Okay,
And so for IT, it's basically
go.
oh, there it is. It was your magic touch. Okay, good. So for IT, it's basically has two major components to the allocation. 50% is based upon the department's desktop, tablet, or laptop inventories, and 50% is based upon the FTEs. And just so you know, the number of devices that's in the allocation right now is about 653 devices. And then the number of FTEs in the allocation is 583. So it's pretty even and on the FTEs and the devices. And then the billing includes an annual amount for capital replacements or for longer term assets. But we have made the decision, or we're proposing the decision, that for 26 and 27, we don't need to make an allocation because our reserve is sufficiently funded. Right now, our reserve is sitting at a little bit over, I had written it down, a little bit over here it is, sorry. Our reserve is sitting at $3.9 million, and the cost to actually replace most major pieces of equipment is sitting at about 3.2 million right now in today's dollars. And then if I were to put some inflation factors on that, we would need about 3.7. So we actually have sufficient reserves set aside already, and we don't need to continue to put more reserves in. So we are recommending no contribution for the capital replacements for this year or for next year.
So when you say replace most of that equipment, how much of it, we don't replace it all at once, obviously.
No, we don't.
So we do it in cycles. Okay.
So, so for example, I know this year, Travis has put in the budget to potentially replace some of the virtual servers, some backup storage, things like that.
Server infrastructure. So it's effectively servers and storage. And those are the two primary components. But, you know, those components are expensive. They're in excess of $500,000, you know, so it's not insignificant.
Right.
How do you define longer assets? I mean, what's the shelf life you look at when we're looking at replacement in your world, Travis?
For physical hardware, it varies. It's kind of 3 to 7 years.
3 to 7
but-
years,
But
depending on-
most things are in the 5 and 7 year time frame. There's some a little shorter, some a little longer. One of the other things to add on to what Kathy said is one of the big unknowns in that number for reserve is PeopleSoft. It's unknown for how long we'll have PeopleSoft. The product that we replace PeopleSoft with could be an operational expense or it could be a capital expense. You know, when we acquired PeopleSoft, we invested significant money, millions, in the installation and integration of PeopleSoft, you know, more or less the replacement, in order to make that software package work. That's typical. When we go to a new product, we'll do the same thing. But then it could be a subscription model, kind of like your utility. You know, you pay a monthly bill, but if you stop paying, they cut off the service the next week or the next month. Or it could be more of a perpetual model, which is what we use today, where you pay a large upfront sum and then you just pay a 10 to 20% fee annually to maintain support for that product. So the amount we would need in a reserve, you know, is kind of factored, you know, is kind of hard to say, because if you need to pay up front for a product that you're going to have for 10 or more years, you know, that could be a significant amount of money. So my point is there's multiple components like that. So the amount in reserve is really hard to know exactly what we'll need, because we don't know what product we're going to go to and what their licensing model is going to be. But in the industry, most products are going to a subscription model. You know, they all want you to owe them monthly and know that they're going to have recurring income monthly. And so that's kind of the trend where things are going. So to continue funding a large capital balance, you know, for future capital purchases doesn't have the same demand that it did in the past.
Yeah. I've known some of the financial institutions change that model where they used to keep all the hardware and stuff themselves, and now the people that run, they just let them run it. Yeah.
And
they
that
have-
transfers to software, transfers to
Well,
hardware.
there's some advantages that if they're running it, then they already have set up backup sites and disaster recovery, and there's other things that kind of go with that. So I get why some move that way.
With that subscription model, does that typically include replacing old hardware?
It depends what we're talking about. Like, so I was addressing very specifically licensing. I think what Commissioner Dahl's addressing is probably more the infrastructure side or more hardware assets, because you can also move those to the cloud. And, you know, that could be broadly where you get servers in the cloud and you kind of use them remotely, just more or less somebody else's computer you get access to, or it could be a software package in the cloud. You know, at one time we probably hosted email and had email on-prem here, and every bit of email that somebody would read or send would go through a server or central device here. It doesn't happen that way anymore. It doesn't need to, right? It goes from your laptop more or less directly to somebody's computer in the cloud. So we're already moving that way. That's the way the industry is moving. You become less reliant on things on-prem and more reliant on a network to get to and from. So that happens with software, but it happens with hardware. And we can go in both directions. That's kind of the way of the industry. It's kind of like leasing vehicles instead of buying vehicles. You know, another way to look at it in a more common vernacular.
Okay, so like I said, we have the allocation methodology. We're sticking, we've been doing this same methodology for several years. And so that's the one that this model is built on. So some of the components of the billing, what we're billing out to the departments for 26 and 27. 26, of course, is a little over, right around $5 million. And one of the reasons why it's a little bit less than 27 is because we analyzed and looked, we also talked about this last time, looking at what the previous year billing was and what the actual expenses were. Because when we put these budgets together, we put it together as if every position's filled for the year. And we estimate some of the software escalations and things like that, and minor equipment replacement, things like that. So in some cases, the expenses have come in less than what we billed out. And so we recognized that and said, okay, we have an opportunity to take that savings from last year, instead of continuing to build up a large fund balance in the operating account, to actually use that to reduce the current year's bills. And so that's the $600,000. And last year we did the same thing and reduced it by $228,000 from the year before. So that's now part of our process, is to look at what was last year's billings, what was last year's actuals, and whatever savings there were, to make sure that those are utilized in the future billings, instead of building up a big, large fund balance.
So what we save, even if it's a little, it affects the billings for departments the next year, so they actually get the benefit of some of this
Right.
savings. Okay, good.
It flows back to the departments that way.
Could I summarize that by saying it's a use it or lose it model? Because I think
Yeah.
that's what you're describing, and
Yep.
yeah.
And then we also put some historical here. And so 2025 total expense that was billed out to the departments was about almost $5.2 million. We have seen increases, some increases in our salaries and benefits, you can see there. And then also in our software, we have seen some significant increases that we're projecting for 2026, going from 2.1 million to 2.6 million. And I think on the next slide, I talk about that. So for 2026, we also have included in the salary area 6 months of an overlap for one position to help transition a person that will be, I think, retiring. And so we put in there some monies to be able to have a good transition plan for that. Software subscriptions, some of the increases and escalations that we saw for this budget was Laserfish, the assessor and treasurer software, something called Net Monitor, and I don't know all the names, what these are, but so Net Monitoring, Sonic Wall, I don't even know if I have this one spelled right.
The Sonic Wall is going to be replaced by another software product. That was one of the products that led to a security issue earlier this year, for example. So we're replacing that. The new product is going to cost a little bit more. I abbreviated vulnerability management software, could be Tenable, could be something else, TBD. So that's what you see there. IDS is intrusion detection service or software, and SIM, security incident event monitoring. And MDR is one of the things that we've already done this year, managed detection and response. So when we upgraded from Threat Down or Malwarebytes, as they're known, to CrowdStrike, that product had a slight increase in cost year over year. So those things are incorporated here.
Yep.
Just a quick question on the Laserfish, and this could show my ignorance with IT, but is that system old and antiquated and need to be updated? Because it reminds me of a system that I used to use in the library to find old newspaper articles.
That's exactly what it is.
Are you thinking of microfiche? Have you ever sit in a microfiche machine? I have.
Yeah. It was late and it was a new technology when you.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been around a while. I've been around a while, and I was one of the first users of this. It's a document repository system. And, but it works. So,
I would compare it to this building. There are definitely newer buildings. There are some that are more attractive, but it serves its purpose. I think that's kind of like this building, right? It serves a purpose. The product is the same way. There are other products that have newer modern interfaces. They have other capabilities, better search, for example. I think the product probably could be better if we continue to invest. And we can also look at modernizing and, moving some of that to other products over time. But we really haven't invested in that yet.
I'm just gonna, my question would be with regards to storage. Is it as efficient as other software types with regards to storage? Does this take up more space because it is older and antiquated?
I think the net cost, regardless, like you're gonna have a net cost, whether we move that to a modern product, you're gonna spend money either way. If we move that to a lot of the modern products will move it to the cloud, then you'll pay for capacity in the cloud. They'll charge you for capacity in the cloud. Here, we're paying for capacity on-prem. When it's under our management, under our control, you're exchanging our labor for somebody else's, but you pay them for that labor. So the net cost is comparable. I think it's better to compare, does it meet our needs? And can we save money if we move it to another platform? At this point, I'm not confident that we could. I think, does it meet our needs? Is it cost effective? It's cost effective in large part because we've already invested in the product. And if we have to invest in something else, there's a migration, which is costly. There's a learning curve. So there's also talent and training. It's not just learning curve or getting accustomed to it from a user perspective, but also from an administrative support perspective. So it adds an IT burden. So there's multiple costs to consider.
Yeah, and the other thing I was wondering is like with regards to Bailey, if this is a cumbersome, software program for her pulling records, if there's something that, because I would imagine that all these things touch different things, and overall, I'm wondering if it would be a net benefit or not. I don't know.
I'm sure if we asked Laserfish, they would tell you that their product is competitive and it's modern and there's ways for them to compare directly with other products. I think we are a little bit behind in updates. I think there's some opportunity to, evaluate that moving forward, and we should. It just hasn't been something we've done thoroughly in the past year.
and then we also saw some increases in professional services. They're included in this budget to migrate email archives, PeopleSoft, things like that. So.
Yeah, so the idea there is that we know that we're going to have to engage a PeopleSoft vendor. That was anticipated in part because we're reducing labor for staff, and that was anticipated. But then also for email, there's a consideration that we may consider leveraging a different service for spam filtering and email archiving, and the migration process would incur some cost. The net cost once we move the data is going to be probably comparable, but we know that we're going to have to invest in the migration process.
And then, as I said, we don't believe there's a need for any additional funds for major equipment replacement. So we've budgeted 0 for that. And then we reduced the 26 billing because 24 billing was in excess of expenses. So we saved about 600,000 that we used to reduce billings for 26. And then telecom is also been included in IT. Last year was our first year to do that. And it basically is being allocated based upon the number of lines a department has. We did get a question, an interesting question. So it said, if a department decreases their number of lines, would their future allocation go down? And the answer is it depends. It could go down, but the total cost is allocated based upon the number of lines. So if one department's number of lines go down, then another department's expense may go up because we're still operating on the same cost. It's the software for the telephone systems and things like that. So anyway, I don't know if I answered that question right, but we did get the question saying, okay, well, if we looked at reducing a bunch of our lines, can we reduce our telecom bill? And the answer is yes, but if we're spreading that cost over less lines, everybody's line charge is going to go up, including the department that reduced the number of lines.
For that year,
Yeah. So
that's not gonna be an ongoing thing, is it? You know what I mean? We're billed for 200 lines this year. Next year, if we reduce that to 175, does our bill go down?
no,
It does not.
If I can speak to it slightly, I think what needs to be clear is that the overwhelming majority of our cost is in the infrastructure to support the phone lines. It's not in the phone service. So.
You talking about
So
our
I don't know the exact,
phones and stuff like that?
it's the hard phones and
Okay.
what would traditionally be known as a PBX. You know, the thing that determines when you call in, you get a greeting that and tells you to dial one number for, you know, to go to one extension or dial something else to get to another extension. That infrastructure that supports switching of calls from one extension to another and gives you a greeting and lets you leave voicemails, that sort of thing. There was a significant investment in that to the tune of $750,000 or so in the past couple of years. And so even now, this year, for example, we made an upgrade so that we can give you the option to make phone calls and interact with that from your laptop. And we're in the process of finishing that up, but that's a small upgrade to that system, for example, to give you that functionality. But because there was that cost, if you amortize in rough numbers, $750,000 over 10 years, there's a $75,000 a year cost. And that's probably greater than the utility cost that we spend for phone calls and phone services every year. So even if you reduce your phone lines by 10%, and it's $50,000 total per year, which I think is it's even lower than that. It's probably more like 20 or 25,000. But if you reduce that because you reduce 10% of your phone lines and or 10% of your phone calls, you're only dropping 2,000 a year, but you're still carrying $75,000 a year in expense for the investment in the infrastructure, which is why reducing phone lines or phone calls by 10% is a negligible difference.
So the misconception is that because that's how we bill, that's how we're being billed per line.
yeah, we're not, yeah, we're paying, I believe lumens.
Yes.
I don't think it's paid based upon a line. I think it's paid based upon a
A circuit.
circuit.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're in the process of changing some of those circuits, and those costs for circuits are roughly like, I don't know, 1,000 or 1,500 a month. Right. And then you pay an addition for long distance, but those are your two primary costs. And it's insignificant. It's, you know, total probably a couple $1,000s a month. So that's why I said your total cost on an annual basis is probably like 25,000. And that's outweighed, that's the variable cost, but the fixed cost each year is more based upon the investment and recouping the investment in the infrastructure of more like 750,000.
Yeah, so.
Two questions. Only because I've had a little bit of experience with it. We used to have our own phones and all that, and then I want to say, I could be wrong on the name, but I think it was Juno or something. We did not own our own phones anymore. We didn't have the capital. They provided them. We paid a fee, and if anything, if that phone needed to be replaced, it was them. So I don't know if that over long-term helps or all. I never, it wasn't my area, so I never saw that contract to see how that worked. I know the system worked, and I know you always had a new phone. You didn't have to, you know, buy new equipment. The other thing is, as we get more experienced and we get set up to do teams, I could call branches through teams. Does that over time make any difference to cost?
Yeah, let me address that. I think the first question is along the lines of, have we or could we consider using a phone service instead of using the on-prem hardware and the upfront cost? That goes back to the discussion I had earlier, which is most vendors want us to move to a situation where we're paying them a subscription fee or a usage fee monthly or annually instead of investing in the infrastructure and paying up front. The challenge in this case is that we just recently made the investment, and that hardware lifespan is probably, and the software lifespan is probably 10 years. So, we made a $750,000, investment, which is that product is functional for 10 years. So at this point, to make that change wouldn't give us a net savings. Because our subscription costs would compensate for an investment in that infrastructure that's somebody else's hardware.
Gotcha.
And so at this
But when
point,
that comes up again, like the other stuff, it's probably a good idea to look at both options.
correct. And even now, like we have a Cisco product, that's who we, that's the hardware and the service, the software that we use. They now would recommend all companies and organizations move to their subscription model and their hosted model, where you don't use their on-prem product, that they would want you to use that as a service and they would offer it to you as a service. So everybody's moving that direction, including Cisco, and this is just one example of what we discussed earlier. And they can provide you phone hardware, but you don't need phone hardware. And that goes to the point I made that we're actively in the process of moving to software that you can use to place phone calls from your laptop, and potentially, and likely even from a mobile device. So that will be the option. You'll install software. I've used that. I use it now when I'm working remotely. I've got a headset on and I can make a phone call as though I'm dialing from my work extension. If you call me, you can dial as though and I can pick up as you dial my work extension. So that capability is here. We're not quite finished to release it to all users, but that'll be coming in the following weeks, hopefully. So we're getting pretty close. And that'll be from your laptop, and then probably could be as few as, weeks later that we'll even consider that from other devices. But laptops first, that I'm confident in. So I think there was a second question, and could we use Teams? Yes, there is the possibility of using Teams. I don't know that we'll need to use Teams, because if you have the capability to do it with a different application on your phone, and it's just a different application than Teams on your phone or on your laptop, I don't know that you'll need to use Teams. And if we use Teams, it's now a subscription. Their cost per minute, their cost per call is going to be higher than what it would be to use the hardware and the investment that we already have.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that business model of billing is not only, it's becoming more and more prevalent in the IT world, but in the business world. Because from a business standpoint, if I'm gonna go build a business and I just get paid up front one time, I don't have a book of business to sell. When you get people on subscriptions, you just increase your EBITDA, because you can say, oh, I got these contracts for 10 years. Look at the guaranteed revenue that I'm gonna have coming in. And so we're gonna see that in a lot of areas moving forward as we deal with third-party vendors.
Yeah.
And we've been seeing it, and it'll just continue that trend. Exactly right.
And then there's one
Interesting.
new item that's been added to the cost allocation for IT, and that's related to panic buttons. So we started seeing some requests for panic buttons in the last couple of years. And so IT has taken over the cost of installing those, upfront cost. And so then we've developed a methodology for IT to be able to recoup those prior year expenses over a longer period of time. And we picked 10 years for the panic buttons. And so it's a very small amount. It's in the budget. I think we have $1,324 for the whole year related to panic buttons that have been installed in the last couple of years. So,
How many do we have out there? Just out
Oh.
of curiosity.
Dozens.
yeah.
Dozens? Yeah, okay.
Dozens. And we didn't go back to any old ones. We just said from this point forward, making it easier for the departments, they would call IT to get the services installed and delivered, and then we bill them after the fact.
Are those easy when we had those, when they were looking at, I don't even know what you want to call them, those little machines where if you hit, somebody who's having a problem, you could pull the machine out, you know, heart attack machine.
The
Yeah.
The
And they went around.
AEDs.
And they, yeah, and they were updating them because some of them were on older software or somebody, you know what I mean? Are these all consistent? They took it and did it centralized because some units were getting them themselves and they were different units than other places were getting.
Not yet.
Okay.
We'd like to get there, but one of the immediate needs was addressing some very specific departments and their needs. And it was difficult to figure out funding because the precedent for what was done in the past was unclear. So the first thing we wanted to do is solve the immediate, how do we make sure that when a department has a real need, that we have a way to determine how to fund it? So that's what we've taken care of. And initially the department will bear the costs because there's different models, there's different types that we can support and we do support today. So over time, we can probably standardize and figure out how to make that a little bit easier to support and how to tie them into have less things to support, less models.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet.
I think you and Arn found our panic button, didn't you? Yeah.
And that's it for the, how the IT cost allocations are created and, divvied up and charged to the departments. And then this is internal services. So what happens is the departments are billed in January every year for the services of the departments. So they pay in advance for the services for the year.
Do the departments understand these allocations? Not from just this department, but from everything that gets allocated out? They get, I mean, do they get what we say, hey, this is how we allocate,
Yes,
just
this,
so they know?
yeah, this year, we sent out the slides so
Okay.
that they could see this and then they could have an opportunity to ask questions. And we
Comment.
did get some questions because that was something that came out in our, having our budget retreat, you know, helping people be more transparent and understand what's behind this bill that I get. So we did that. We provide the presentation and the methodology to help them.
Are those based on the number of devices per department or purely that, or in addition to?
It's 50/50. Number of devices is 50% and number of FTE is 50%.
Okay.
And the devices, there's an annual inventory that's done each year. And so it's usually done in the summer, which is too late for this cost allocation. So we're usually about 1 year behind on the inventory numbers, but they don't fluctuate that much. So from year to year.
Okay. Thank you.
Shouldn't those departments with those fancy laptops pay more? I'm teasing, Sheriff.
Sure, they last longer, right?
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay, the next, have Shelley join us. We're going to talk about the cost allocation for risk management as well as industrial accident.
This one's scary.
Yeah. So you want me to try to pull mine up? Oh, you're just going to do it for me. Okay. The magic. So the cost allocation for our risk insurance, that we're going to do that one first. And I just realized these colors just don't show up very well in a on a slide. So I'm going to have next year.
I'll write that.
Yeah, we'll change colors. So the first thing that happens in risk management, the biggest piece of the allocation has to do with our assessments from our risk pool. And they start talking to us, and as you know, they change their fiscal year. So usually by July, we would have our rates for the next year already known and set. This year, they changed it, so we don't know our rates exactly yet. We won't know them until October officially. But they did give us some indications at the meeting and way back in March that we should be looking at 25% increase in our liability, our general liability part, our MLC. So we built the budget on a 25% increase. And then I built for the 2027 a 20% increase, which may be too low, but I was hoping I was being optimistic. So for some of the other policies like the property, cyber, things like that, I used just a 10% increase. I got some information yesterday because I'm part of the finance committee for the risk pool. I was looking at the budget for operating expenses anyway. And they believe, as of right now, they think that the property is not going to be that high of an increase, but I put 10% in, so.
Kathy, on that topic, I want to ask you a question. To your statement that we don't know what it's going to be, when we change that contract date and we now sign a contract with them for our renewal, we don't know what that premium is going to be for that year yet when we sign that, do we? Because like right now, we're assuming it's 25%, but we've already signed that contract for this year and we don't know what it is. Correct?
Right, I don't think did we sign a contract yet?
No, we haven't signed anything yet, but no, we're giving general percentages of general increases, but no specifics that I've seen.
Yeah,
I don't think we're gonna know what the specifics are even when we sign the contract, because they have, what is it, 90 to 120 days before we know what the premiums are?
yeah. They're telling us that in October, when we have our board meeting,
Yeah.
that we will have quotes in
Good.
for our numbers, because they're effective January 1. So I think that's where the 120
20
days
days.
comes, is that they are getting a proposal dated October 1 that's effective January 1.
But we've already signed that for 2026, haven't we?
No, we haven't signed anything yet.
Okay,
Mhm.
good.
Yeah. So, yeah, so I can tell you that for all of the,
Just to clarify, so just if we get the quotes in October, we're not committed. If we really don't like them, we have 2 months or 2.5 months to try and do something, right?
Not really. We have a year, we're committed, we have to give them 1 year notice. So we would
Okay,
be
so-
committed for 1 additional year and then we could opt out.
So we may not have signed the contract, but to Commissioner Rader's point, we are,
under the
Committed.
current contract,
Yeah.
right,
And we don't know we don't know that it's gonna be
Right.
25%.
Yeah.
right,
That's, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's a bit scary,
yeah,
not knowing, and we're using 25%, and 25%, it's a huge jump. It's like from 1.9 for MLC
Look at
to
the two thou- yeah.
$2.5 million.
Yeah.
From 2023 to projected 2027, it's doubled. It's 100% increase.
Yep.
Those are deductible.
Crazy, just crazy.
Yeah. And that was the other thing. I think they're going to change the deductible, right?
Okay.
So, with the best knowledge that we have, we've prepared a budget, and so risk management, we have property that we allocate. The two biggest pieces of our insurance is the general liability and the property. So basically, we allocate those costs based upon labor hours for a department. So if you have a department that has a larger number of employees, you're going to have a larger number of labor hours, and you're going to be allocated a larger percentage of the general liability policy, for example. The property, we allocate all to facilities, but we allocate it based upon square feet of particular buildings. So we have an expense line for admin building. We have an expense line for Hall of Justice, Human Services, et cetera, across the county.
So it goes by buildings. It doesn't get granular and say the commissioner's office is 5,000 square feet or something like that.
Yeah.
It's all this building.
It's all for this building. What's unusual is this building and the annex have always been added together. And then the square feet have always been added together for one total. And then those buildings that have occupants that are not general fund or that have their own cost allocations, they get allocated based upon their square feet and based upon a square footage charge. And we're going to go over that tomorrow. Facilities.
So Kathy, help me understand something. You said that the hours worked is how we allocate their billing.
For risk management, for the assessments.
So do we take into account the fact that Public Works and the Sheriff's Department are riskier than the attorneys that are working the same amount of hours?
We do not for risk management. For industrial accident, for workers' comp, we do exactly that. We take into consideration the hours and what risk class that employee in the office is.
Okay, so that's a different category that we're talking about. Then.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But we run a query. We start with the query that says, okay, give me all the labor hours for prosecuting attorney's office. Give me all the labor hours for the sheriff's office. Things like that. So. We also, as part of this allocation, we set aside $300,000 to pay for our share of what the risk pool will bill us for tort claims and legal claims of defense, defending those liabilities. So we have a deductible on the general liability of $100,000 right now, which we're talking about, it's probably going to go up. But we set aside about $300,000 per year right now to help pay for our portion of those deductibles, basically. We think in the future, we're going to have, well, if the deductible goes up, that's going to have to go up. And we also are seeing a larger number of open tort claims and things like that. So we have about, what,
Yeah.
12 or between 12 and 14 right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think Scott has told us a couple of times over the years, the average claim has been rising.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's on your workers' comp, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see more claims and larger claims.
Yeah.
And I want to say, if my memory serves me correctly, that we're talking about bumping our deductible from 100,000 to 250 is what the risk pool is looking at.
Well, we've always had the option to have a larger deductible. We looked at it back in when we were doing 24's budget. And I looked at it and it really was not negligible. I mean, it was very small of a savings compared to the change in the deductible. So I presented it to the commissioners at that time, and we made the decision not to change our deductible, and I'm glad
They don't give you much of a break in fee by taking a larger
No.
deductible.
no.
And I think I think it's going to be minimum 250.
Yeah, I think
It's not-
you're right. It's not good. The 100,000. So then here's your chart to show you what's involved in the cost, what we're looking at. The majority of our expense is in our assessments and our insurance policies. And like you said, for 20, it went from 1.3 in 23 to what we're projecting for 27 of 3.1. I don't think since I've been here, I haven't seen a single year that's less than a 20% increase. At the first year I got here, it was a 30% increase. So that was 23 to 24.
The trend isn't changing.
No, it's not changing. Then property assessments, of course, is the next next area. So it's changed also from 450, about $500,000 to, I'm projecting for 27, about almost 700,000. Your all other expenses are the personnel for the risk department, the liability, the deductibles, and that's included in that 700,000 I've got there. And then also an amount for our training program that we administer in the risk management office. So total for 2026, we're looking to allocate and bill out almost $4 million. And then for 27, we're projecting it'll be $4.5 million.
On the liability claim transfer, what factor do we use to come up with that number?
The 300?
Yeah, what we have on the liability claim, right? They're all of their expenses.
So basically we looked at that typically a claim sits there for about 2 years, 2 to 3 years. And over that period of time, you're paying out legal bills and things like that. So if we had 10 on average for the year, about 1/3 of them will be hitting the max. So it was just history looking at that. So it's probably a little too low going into, and it's too low. It's too low if it's too low if they raise the deductibles. So. And basically that's it on that allocation. It's almost purely the insurance programs. It's causing the rising cost.
Where are we on scheduling that, a workshop or meeting with the insurance company that gave us the illustration?
I'm waiting for Kelly to give me some workshop dates. That's where we left off last.
Okay.
I think it's litigation costs that are driving the costs up. And then
Yeah.
the insurance is there to pay for it.
It's hard to even
Crazy.
find brokers that will bid insurance for municipalities. I know a lot of the other counties in the risk pool have sought and not been successful.
Well,
Well,
I
yeah.
look at that and I don't know what their history is. But I would say our history's got to be pretty good and pretty competitive to get, if we can get somebody to bid on what we've got. And if we do have brokers that are willing to bid on our municipality, then that tells me we're probably overpaying at the risk pool.
This whole category is scary. They've seen some, when they took off the statute of limitations and let the years go back, and it was applied to the juvenile jails. Well, now they're gonna dollars to donuts, they're gonna start expanding that. I've heard churches in different places, and it's gonna get bigger and bigger.
It's
Church,
scary.
schools.
Yeah.
Anybody you can walk into an attorney's office
Mhm.
or roll in.
Mhm.
So then,
All right.
so the next item is our cost allocation for workman's comp they call it industrial accident. And it has a similar basis. Again, it's a model that's based upon labor hours, but we pull the labor hours for this one by person. Because in the past, what we had done was we just took a department and we said, okay, that department predominantly falls in the risk category, a higher risk category, so they're gonna be more risky, so they're going to have a higher factor on their labor hours. But then this is the one where we went back and said, okay, not every person in that department, some are administrative, some are clerical, some are not. So we did it by person. And so that way a department that has a mix of high risk and low risk, they'll see the benefit, the savings, because we're going to charge the person that's low risk a different rate. And so we also look at L&I, the labor and industries risk categories that are for counties. We predominantly fall in 3 different ones. We have very low risk for clerical and office. The next highest is, I'll just say it's pretty much the roads area. And then the riskiest area for L&I is our sheriff, corrections, things like that. So, so we factor our labor hours based upon those risk categories. And so we come up with our labor hours, we multiply them by a factor, and that's how we determine how to allocate the total cost for the administering the workers' comp program. The workers' comp program is go to the next page so I can explain what's in it.
We had some issues that I know that we're pointing out is when tracking people when they move jobs. Have we figured that out?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So when somebody moves, the risk department gets a notification, what we call a pause form, and they can look at promotions or transfers and specifically be able to go in and request that HR change that person's
Change those.
L&I category. Mhm. So we have professional services contract. We pay a third-party administrator to administer our workers' comp claims. And then we have some excess insurance premium that's $141,000. We haven't ever had to use this so far. Yeah, but we may tap into that eventually.
Is it a supplemental policy to something?
Yes, it's a supplemental policy. We have to pick up all of the expenses. We're self-insured, but then once you hit, what's the number, 750?
750.
750,000 per occurrence. Once you hit that,
Mhm.
then anything in excess, this policy picks it up. So it's
Not
it's
per
more for
occurrence.
catastrophic.
So it's not based on a per occurrence basis, it's based on the dollar amount once we hit it.
Yeah, and per
And per
occurrence.
occurrence.
Oh,
Both. Yeah. But the good news is in in a year, we have never paid out $750,000 in claims. You can see that down there under active claims. So we have, and then we also pay labor and industries a quarterly assessment. It's based upon our total payroll and also based upon our hours worked. So they too bill us based upon hours worked and the categories.
Kathy, on that insurance, that supplemental policy, what's the face amount that that we're paying for that?
It's we're estimating 141,000.
That's what we're paying for it, right?
Right.
What's the amount of insurance we're paying for that policy? Anything above and beyond it? It doesn't matter. There's no cap to it?
Above and beyond 750?
Yeah,
Yes.
Is there a
there's no cap to it.
I don't know of a cap. I can ask our Everly Vivian.
Yeah. I think there is a cap.
I would be really surprised if there
I
wasn't.
think it's at 2 million.
Is it 2 million? That does sound
Yeah,
familiar.
I think it's
I
a
can
2
confirm
million
the
cap.
though.
And then we have some other small charges that go in this account. And then the next, by far, the actual largest expense for workman's comp is our actual claims per employee for medical, lost time. And so we're budgeting, we took a big jump from 24 to 25 when we did the budget. And that's because we were starting to see an increase per claim. And I'm being conservative here, but we didn't take a big jump for the next couple of years. We left it pretty much at the same rate per claim. And just, hoping that we'll work these claims and be able to close them as quickly as possible and be on top of them. So for 2025, I was looking at it just to see, are we going to be okay for this year? We're going to hit that 450 mark. I think we're going to come in a little bit less than the 450, but it's going to be close because we've had several claims in the last couple of weeks. So
How often do we reevaluate these supplemental policies like this one right here?
I don't know that, maybe it's annually, I want to say.
yeah, isn't this through our broker?
Mhm.
This is through our broker, so.
And the reason I'm asking is how close do we get to that 750? Because if we only get to 200,000, maybe we want to look at.
Well,
what we're-
we have two cases, we have two cases that we are pretty sure in the lifetime of those payments that we're gonna get there.
Mhm.
Yeah, one is a death. And so we're paying out a what do
Pension.
they call it pension.
Mhm.
And so we pay out on that one quarterly. So, yeah, there's two potential that will be able to jump to this policy in the future, not anytime soon, but in the future. And with the cost of medical expenses going up, I 750 is not that big a number these days anymore.
I said we never hit it. I'm wondering
Yeah.
what number, where we're at. Just, and to also make sure that we are reevaluating it to see if we're overpaying or if it's going to meet our needs.
Yeah, I think the last time we looked at that, one of those claims was in the $400,000
Yes.
range already.
Yeah, it was 495.
Year to
Because we were
date.
close to $500,000.
Yeah. And then there was another one, it wasn't
It was
that
related,
large,
but-
but it was in the 300 range. And so we thought, we inquired to determine, would both of those be the same incident? Because they were related, but then they looked at it, they evaluated it, and they said, our broker got with us and said, no, these are considered two incidents, even though they were
The aftermath of one incident,
one
but they
incident.
coded them as two separate claims.
Yeah. So anyway, so we're looking at about 700, almost 800, approaching 800,000 a year for workers' comp administration and claims that we are paying out. And I'll have to tell you that when I look at the L&I rates, if we weren't self-insured, we would be paying twice this amount.
Hmm.
So going self-insured was an appropriate thing to do on this because we're saving the county money. Any other questions on that? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And we have one more. We have Troy here. And this one you've already heard about, so hopefully this will go pretty smooth, but since it's in the budget as a cost allocation, just wanted to make sure we went over it as well. one makes me look dizzy. I think I blew up the picture too much, so it got a little distorted, but anyway, so this is the Sheriff Equipment and Technology Fund, which is brand new. And Troy had previously presented the need for this, and so when we get ready to do the budget amendment in about a month, the end of October, we'll have that on the budget amendment. So we're anticipating the fund will start with approximately $932,000. Those are funds that have previously been in IT and motor pool. And so those will move over to this new fund. And then there'll be an annual cost allocation for all these different pieces of equipment and technology. And it's about $330,000 annually. So that's an expense to the general fund and to the just to the sheriff's department.
Is that fairly consistent with what we've been setting aside in IT for this?
No, that I'd have to say no. We've been setting aside on an annual basis in IT to basically only cover those mobile data terminals that are in the vehicles, about 70-something thousand dollars.
Oh, okay.
And then in motor pool, they had been setting aside too low of a number. It was 22,500 for the radios in the, yeah, but it was a different frequency type radio system, not the one that they're proposing. And then there really hadn't been, some of these, there hadn't been an equipment reserve in place at all. And so the department, as they were telling you, they had to rely on, savings in one particular year for their budget to try to coop together enough money to get the taser system, things like that. So now they'll have these amounts available to them in this technology fund.
And these are for deferred replacement cost on all these different things later on down the road.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, Commissioner Dahl, wasn't this the meeting that Commissioner Farrell said he was gonna let us tase in? He was gonna take a taser or something like that.
Well, I did tell Troy, I think the commissioners should each have a taser.
I know a guy.
Yeah. I think we said before this, it kind of puts control of the equipment they use under their deal, so.
Right. And yeah, so this is the amount that will be transferred to this fund in 2026. And then on an annual basis, they'll bring this forward during the cost allocations to make sure
See
y'all
what
have a
they spend.
chance to see
Yeah,
the utilization of the funds and the balance and everything like that.
So I just took the numbers that you had and projected out some of the upcoming expenditures just so we could see how that's going to be spent for the next 5 years. I did round it to 300,000. I didn't see that other number, but these are just some of the projections, things that we're dealing with. And there's some of the considerations in the future are whether we purchase at the front of a service period, say a 5-year contract, or if we go to a subscription model. If money's tight, that's an option. However, we can save the taxpayers some money if we're able to negotiate a better price up front. So the goal of this is to plan ahead to get what our deputies need for the least amount of money.
So Troy, on the mobile radios, you've got 600,000, you got it down twice. Are we comparing paying 600,000 in 2028 to a subscription model? Is that what that is?
So this is, and I apologize to Kathy, I didn't get to share this with her before. So in projecting this out, the mechanism that we had in place for mobile radios, which are the ones in the cars, would be to increase the vehicle build budget. But with this fund, with the money that, now that I've got the numbers of the money we saved on different mobile data terminal replacements and some of the other savings that we've had, we can include the funding for the vehicles as well. And then we don't have to come back and ask for that vehicle budget increase. So this puts it away now. I think that's a, you know, the original plan would be as we replace each car to increase by that amount, the build budget going forward. But I think this would be a great way to deal with it. This is, you know, a good surprise to see how much we've saved on other projects over the years. And then we don't have to come back and ask for more money later.
So those are both the same thing?
No,
They are
portables
two
are
different ones?
these. Portable radios are the ones we carry on our persons.
Mobile.
The mobile radios are in the
Cars,
vehicles.
okay.
Yeah,
So it just happens that they're both the same price.
yeah. The other item that I did update on here is our digital forensics program. I had estimated that our software was 5,000 a year. It is 25,000 a year. So we spend about 5,000 in hardware on that machine and those programs. And just with the digital forensic software that we're using, these cybercrime type cases or internet crimes against children, we deal with a lot of that. It's very important software, but it is expensive. So I updated that to reflect current costs.
Aren't we, I don't think, not every sheriff office has that. Am I correct in that? Or is
Most have some version of it.
some version of it?
Sometimes if they're trying to, what we did, we got some, I believe it was some grant money to start this. And we have maintained this, it's about a 2 cubic foot square computer
Yeah,
over the years. And we have been able to keep it going by just updating hardware rather than buying all new systems. But if you try to run these programs on just a standard computer, it's going to take probably months per case when you're getting multiple cases per month. So we have to have something with more capabilities. It also has to be firewalled so that it's not touching any county servers. It has to be a forensic environment. We have to make sure that it's not making any copies to any libraries. We do not want prohibited materials ending up on county servers or things like that. So it's delicate work, but we've got a good system in place, and we're just maintaining that system rather than looking to replace it. We're just keeping it updated as we go.
do we, or something in my mind tells me we help other agencies when they need it with that. So
We do.
So we can recoup a little bit of costs that way.
Yeah, the other, so Longview and Kelso, I believe both have their own systems now. They've kind of got up to speed, and occasionally what we do is we will have a tool that they don't have, or they will have a tool that we don't have, and we'll help each other out.
Okay.
Because we have to buy it for certain cases, but if it can help somebody else out without them having to buy it and vice versa, helps us out, we'll trade our labor.
Yeah, I don't want to bring up a bad subject, but when that shooting happened and I was watching them, they were tracking where that individual was going and all the different things. I was thinking of your machine because I remember watching him demo some of that.
To be able to put together the cookie crumb trail of where somebody went, you know, based on cell phone analytics is very powerful for a jury. It really
Yeah.
helps us demonstrate what happened in a crime, and we've got guys out serving search warrants right now on those kind of cases, so
Yeah.
we use it a lot.
When we do upgrades on radio systems, do we always make sure we still maintain some way to transfer information from county to county if a chase transfers to another county? Do we keep that communication line somewhere?
So we have back-end communications, which sometimes can just be phone calls between dispatchers in different counties. The problem that we have is we don't have radio interoperability. with neighboring counties. It's always been an issue. We're in a tough county for getting a signal through from here to there with all the hills. Clark County has flatter areas. They've got a digital system, but what we're going to try to update to would be able to do all of the available bands. It's called a tri-band system. And that way we can talk to them. There are times where it's very frustrating to be able to see somebody in another car, but not be able to talk to them directly. And especially on the portable radios, if we are leaving the vehicle, we're assisting, say if they've got a canine track or something like that, communication is critical.
Are the radios we talking about, the contract through 911 with Lewis, we're piggybacking? Is that what we're talking about? These are different?
We have to buy our own portables and car radios. And dispatch just does the kind of the network.
Okay. All right. Okay.
That's it on cost. Tomorrow we will touch on motor pool and facilities, tomorrow afternoon. As well as some other departments are coming
Yeah, I
in.
thought I saw building and planning and the treasurer.
Yes, you have, building and planning coming. We have treasurer's office coming, and we also have, museum.
Yeah, Joseph.
So the white gloves are coming now.
They do a great job over there, right?
Yeah, and he is definitely the right man for that
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
He is.
So I don't know that
I- some-
I don't know that he's gonna bring his white gloves again.
I know. I saw somebody, and I was assuming it's somebody from facilities was out. Remember, he showed that graffiti mark on they were out cleaning it when I was coming back in.
Yeah, so you have three departments coming, and we'll go over the motor pool budget as well as its cost allocation, and we'll go over facilities allocation, so you have that as well. And that's the one that we've gotten a lot of questions on, facilities, and because recently, like I said, that we've updated some of the data that stood behind it and brought it up to date, and so we've gotten a lot of questions, but
Okay.
we have all the information to be able to share with people as well, how that's calculated and how it's derived.
Yeah.
Trying to be very transparent.
And it'll be a good conversation to have with them to let them know that we're gonna make our best attempt to be more responsible with making sure that we're up to date on those rates and how that's done.
Right. Are there any other questions about cost allocations? Okay,
Okay, thank
that's
you.
it. Thanks, George.
Good with your numbers.
Anything else, gentlemen? I think we're good. We're good.
Good.
Okay, we will adjourn. Thank you.